he goes on in verse 7. And he says this, and we looked at this verse some last week. We're going to look at it briefly this morning. It says, in Him, there's that in Him, in Christ, in the Beloved, in Him, in Christ, in the Beloved. This all happens in Christ. You don't have Christ, you don't have this. You don't get this. You're not a part of this. But you can be, by the way. If you're here and you don't know Christ, you can get in on this. Because Jesus Christ died and His blood was sufficient to pay for all of the sin of all mankind. And He doesn't want anybody to go to hell. So, it's your choice. He loves you. And He desires for you to come and put faith in Him. It says, getting back to 7, in Him we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of His grace. Now, we've talked about this some already, but I'm just going to run over it real quick. What is another blessing or another reason why God is worthy to be praised? Because it was in this whole plan that involved His Son coming to die on the cross that we have redemption. Now, we're going to talk about ultimate redemption down the road, probably next week. But we've already talked about the redemption that's mentioned here. In what sense? In the sense that we were set free from that slave market of sin, right? So, everybody else around us that is not in Him, they are walking around in this world and they think they're free. And they're not. They are enslaved in sin. You think of your friends. You think of your family. You think of the lies that Satan has foisted on our culture. That there really wasn't a God. We just evolved. We're just responsible to ourselves. All this nonsense. Boy, what a slick lie. And you can do exactly what your nature wants to do. And their nature is enslaved. It's in bondage. And all they're doing is living according to their sin nature. You want to know why our nation and the world's going to hell in a handbasket? Because we're guided, the unbelievers are guided by their sin nature. It'll always go to hell in a handbasket. Except when God extends grace through the gospel of Jesus Christ to a group of people. And you have a situation unique in history like we had in the United States, where all these people fled from Europe so that they had freedom to worship God and established a country based on that, and a constitution and a Bill of Rights that created freedom like the world's never seen freedom before. Why are we falling apart? Because we believe we're free. We just make our own decisions and do what we want to do. That kind of freedom costs. It'll cost your soul. That's what it'll cost. But we have real freedom. Real freedom is God coming to live within us. Real freedom is the blood of Christ washing away all of our debt to God. That's freedom. And freedom to live righteously, the way God created Adam and Eve to live in the very beginning. That's freedom. That's where we're at. We have redemption through Christ's blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses. So the Father also provided Jesus' life, His blood, as the purchase price to buy us from the slave market of sin. Jesus' death paid our sin debt, providing forgiveness of our trespasses. And Christ was not provided to fulfill any obligation, but He did this according to the riches or the wealth of the Father's grace or undeserved favor, which the Father, I love this, the Father lavished on us. Lavished on us. You feel like God's lavished His blessing on you? You should. When you see where the world is now, I mean, there was a time in the history of our country we didn't see a big contrast, right? Even the pagans knew they weren't supposed to get drunk and lay in the streets and, you know, put up lewd stuff on the internet. Oh, they didn't have it back then. And all this kind of stuff, you know. But now we're seeing the contrast. We're seeing a culture that has made a choice that God is not going to be in my life. It's not going to be in our nation. You know? These people are loony. They're wanting to take us back to the dark ages. You know, that's how we're being painted. And of course, I'm not speaking for all conservatives, because there's a lots of pagan conservatives, I want to tell you, if you hadn't noticed that. I'm talking about Christian conservatives. We're saying, no, that was freedom back then. When our nation really was not, and this wasn't just a memo, it wasn't just a logo. We were really one nation under God. That's where freedom's at. That's freedom. That's freedom. You know what? We're going to stop right there. Don't have a heart attack. We've got 5 minutes, but we're going to have an invitation. I have no idea if there's anybody here today that not only is this